Hey everybody, it is Gordon Majak here, back with another episode of Timeless Pop, Rock, and Soul on a Saturday night. Now, for this video, we are going back to the spring of 1979 and one of the more iconic album covers to go along with one of the more iconic albums. And of course, it is Supertramp, Breakfast in America. Wow. Doesn't get much better than that, does it? Supertramp, Breakfast in America, 1979. This was Supertramp's sixth album to that point, and it was far and away their most commercially successful album. A couple of big hit singles, well, several big hit singles off this album. The Logical Song, remember that great one, got all the way up to number 6. Goodbye Stranger, up to number 15 on the pop chart. Take the Long Way Home, a top 10 single. I think Breakfast in America, the title track, was also a single. So 3 huge hit singles from this album, and right out of the gate, several million copies sold. It was a number 1 album. Listen to this. Supertramp, Breakfast in America, 1979, a number 1 album in the US, Norway, Austria, West Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Canada, Australia, and France. Quite the international smash album there in 1979 for Supertramp, and I think the last time they checked a couple years ago, global sales of this album were over 20 million. Wow. Now, so that sort of gives you a backdrop on the record that we're going to be talking about, the album, and we are going to be listening to a song, the last song on the album, a Roger Hodgson composition called Child of Vision. Now, before I get into my personal story and my personal connection with Supertramp, let's just very quickly give props to the classic Supertramp lineup there in 1979. At that point, we had the great Roger Hodgson on guitar and keyboards and lead vocals. We had Rick Davies on keyboards and lead vocals. We have John Helliwell on, I think John played some keyboards as well, along with his woodwinds, saxophone, etc. We had on bass Dougie Thompson, and on drums the great Bob Siebenberg. That was the classic Supertramp lineup. Now, I first became aware of Supertramp back in 1975, early 1975. They had released an album in late 1974 called Crime of the Century. And I didn't know about that album yet, but in early 1975, a song started getting played on the radio by an artist named Supertramp, and that song was called Dreamer. And I heard that song on the radio a few times and thought, that's kind of a different thing, kind of a weird progressive pop rock. Not really sure how to categorize that. Had a very unique sound, though. I heard that, just had started hearing that on the radio, actually, when an acquaintance of mine who had lived in LA came back from LA with a bunch of records, what all the hipsters in LA were listening to back in the day. And he said, hey, have you heard this album by Supertramp? And I said, Supertramp, where does that name ring a bell? And he said, oh, they have that song on the radio, Dreamer. Oh, yeah, I know that song, Dreamer. Well, you should listen to the album. And needless to say, we all sat down, a group of us, a group of friends, sat down and listened to that Supertramp Crime of the Century album for the first time there. And wow, we were knocked out of our chairs, to say the least. Supertramp Crime of the Century album, an instant start to finish, play every song, classic, favorite, personal favorite, all-time great album, whatever you want to call it. Just a huge album. And made such an impact on all of us there in my particular group of friends that were way into Supertramp. So that was in early 1975. In later 1975, Supertramp released their next album called Crisis What Crisis, another great Supertramp album. And they went on tour after that album, and we all went to see them live. And here we go again, just as was the case with Crime of the Century, we were all blown away by the incredible live show that Supertramp put on there in 1975. One of the all-time great concerts I've ever seen, for sure. So that was it. Once we saw them in concert and we already loved those albums, man, that was it. We were all way into Supertramp from then on out. A couple years later, we skip ahead there to 1977. They released their next album, Even in the Quietest Moments, yet another Supertramp classic album. Then we jump ahead. I did not see them in concert that year, by the way. My friends did, but I was out of town and I missed them on that Even in the Quietest Moments tour. And we always have to talk about the tours and the concerts with Supertramp because the shows are such an integral part of the band's existence and their presence and their impact back there in the day. The albums and the songs and the hits and all that stuff go hand in hand with the live shows with Supertramp because they were so great in concert. So 1979 now, we're up to 1979, and they release this album, Breakfast in America. They've got all those huge hit songs that I mentioned, Logical Song and Goodbye Stranger and Take the Long Way Home. So Supertramp is all over the radio on the pop side with those big hit singles. They're all over the radio on the FM side with all the great album tracks off of this album, one of which we're going to hear here, Child of Vision. And they're doing bang-up business out on the road, selling out concerts, playing 25,000, 30,000 seats in all of the major markets across the country. So Supertramp is rolling. I could make a case that Supertramp was just about the hottest band in the world at that point, in the spring of 1979. So when they went on tour for this album, Breakfast in America tour, they came to Seattle and did 2 shows there in the spring of 1979. My friends and I bought tickets for both shows because we knew with Supertramp, you go see them every opportunity you possibly can because they put on such an incredible show. So we went to both shows, but I don't want to talk about the show. I want to talk about what happened after the show. So the first night that we all went, we made an agreement. My friends and I all said, when we got up to leave the show, we all said, hey, let's meet down at the hotel where the band is staying, down there at the Edgewater Hotel in Seattle on the waterfront, and we'll try to meet the band. Okay, we'll meet down there. We'll see you there. My friends take off, go get in their car. They head down to the hotel. Now, folks, this is in 1979. We don't have cell phones, okay? Everybody's on your own. I'll meet you there. I'll see you in a while. That's all you had to go on back in those days. Okay, see you there. My friends take off in their car. They head down to the Edgewater to go try to meet Supertramp. I go back from the arena back to the parking garage and find my car, and I have a dead battery. The battery in my car is psht. My car won't start. I don't have a cell phone. I can't call AAA. I can't call my friends and tell them I'm not going to be there on time to meet Supertramp. I'm just stuck. Until I can flag someone down after the concert, after the freaking garage is virtually emptied out, I finally am able to flag someone down to come and help me give a jump with my battery so I can start my car. That takes a while. By the time I get my car started, I'm thinking to myself, okay, whatever was going to happen down at the Edgewater Hotel, if anything good happened, I wasn't going to be a part of it at that point anyway, because it was getting pretty late. So I just headed home. And of course, the next day, my friends couldn't wait to tell me how they'd seen the band in the lobby and said hi to them, blah, blah, blah. Okay, isn't that just great? So we all go to the show there on that second night. And of course, the concert is just incredible. Second night in a row, unbelievable show from Supertramp, right? And we are just way into it with these guys by now. But for whatever reason, the great plan that we all had the first night to go to the hotel, which I missed out on, the second night, that wasn't really a part of the deal. And so we all just went home after the show, and that was that. Well, I woke up early the next morning and I thought, you know what? This is BS. I never got to meet Supertramp. I get up early that morning and I call the Edgewater Hotel and I mention a couple band members by names. And I said, has so-and-so checked out? Oh, no, they're still here. Oh, good. Okay. on my way down to the hotel as fast as I can possibly get down there. So I get down to the Edgewater, and I've got my Supertramp program from the concert. I am ready to meet some guys in the band, get some autographs, the whole deal. I get to the hotel. I'm walking around the lobby. Oh, and here comes John Helliwell, the saxophonist, coming down the stairs into the lobby of the hotel. I kind of hang back a little bit. I gave him a little bit of distance. And then when he went over by the gift shop, I approached him and introduced myself and told him what a huge fan I was and how much I loved both shows, that I had gone to both shows, and it was so great to see them. Love them so much. Loved them for years. Can I please get an autograph? And John Helliwell, very polite, very nice, asking questions, being very conversational, nice guy, signed an autograph for me. Great, thank you very much. A few minutes later, Dougie Thompson, the bass player, comes down the stairs. Now, I had called Dougie Thompson's hotel room, I think a day or two previous, because I was a bass player at that same time as he was the bass player for Supertramp. I was also learning to play bass. And I think I called his hotel room to ask him about some bass guitar questions or something. Anyway, so he came down the stairs, and I introduced myself and mentioned that I was the one that had called the hotel, and told him how much I loved his music and his bass playing. What a great bass player, Dougie Thompson. Oh my goodness, man. He anchored that Supertramp stuff in those classic days. He was the anchor. Dougie Thompson, very nice guy, signed an autograph for me. No problem. I'm 2 for 2, right? Finally, coming down the stairs, it is the man himself, my favorite guy, the great singer, keyboardist, guitarist, writer, the whole thing. It is the one and only Roger Hodgson. And he was the guy that I always resonated with the most in Supertramp. So he was really the one I was most excited and most interested to meet. And so I approached Roger Hodgson and gave him the spiel and told him how much I loved Supertramp, and told him how much I enjoyed the concerts and the albums and the whole thing. And Roger Hodgson, I said, hey, would you mind signing my program? The other guy signed it. You can't see these signatures, but Roger Hodgson to Gordon, thanks for listening. Thank you, Roger. And here's where the story gets groovy, friends. You want to talk about how cool some rock stars back in the day were? Roger Hodgson, standing there talking to me in the lobby of the hotel, turns to me and he says, now keep in mind, I'm 20 years old. I'm just a skinny little snot-nosed kid in there rousting these musicians, right? He turns to me and he says, have you had any breakfast? And I said, I'm sorry, what? And he says, have you had any breakfast yet? And I said, no, I haven't. I got up early and I called the hotel. And when I found out you guys were here, I came straight down here. I haven't had any breakfast. Roger Hodgson of Supertramp. Let's find Roger. This dude, AKA the coolest dude on the planet. He hooks his arm in mine and says, come along then. And into the coffee shop we go. His arm hooked in mine. He takes me up to the table where the other 4 band members are all sitting there in a row. And he goes, hey guys, this is my friend Gordon. That's Rick Davies. That's Bob Siebenberg. That's Dougie. Hi, Dougie, we met. That's John. Hi, John, we met. This is my friend Gordon. We sit down at the table in the coffee shop of the Edgewater Motel, and I am sitting at the table having breakfast in America. Breakfast in America, me with Supertramp. And I'm sitting across the coffee table, across the little table there, and Roger Hodgson is having his tea and his fruit and his granola and his breakfast, and we start talking about music, and I'm asking him what is his inspiration for so many of his songs, because I always especially loved with Roger Hodgson the spiritual side of his songs and the philosophical side of his lyrics. I always thought he did such a cool job sort of exploring those personal and spiritual and sort of transformational themes, right? And so I asked him where the inspiration for those types of songs, like even in the quietest moments, and this song, Child of Vision, and his other song, Lord, Is It Mine, that is also from Breakfast in America. I asked him what was the inspiration behind some of those spiritually oriented songs. And he started telling me about his meditation, and he likes to read Paramahansa Yogananda, who I knew of. I knew about Paramahansa. And he's telling me about the Bhagavad Gita and all these spiritual texts that he reads, and that's what inspires him in his meditation and basically his spiritual practice, right? And here I am, Breakfast in America with Supertramp. I'm sitting there at the table, I'm guessing for about 25 to 30 minutes. The tour manager comes in and says, okay, guys, it's time to go. We got to go. Everybody on the bus. Boom. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much, Roger. Hope I get to see you again. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you for Breakfast in America, Roger. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, guys. See you later. And away we go. And Roger Hodgson walked out the door with the rest of the band and got on the bus to head to the airport. And I was about 6 feet off the ground for the next 2 weeks after my encounter. My close encounter with Supertramp and Roger Hodgson at the absolute height of their popularity and their impact. And that's what kind of guy the great Roger Hodgson was and is, an absolute prince of a man. Roger Hodgson. The other guys in Supertramp, nice enough, didn't have to be nice to me at all. I'll take whatever I could get with them. But for Roger Hodgson to be so warm and so gracious and to buy me breakfast in America, and I don't think he got the joke that I got and the irony of it all. It was just too special and too beautiful, and it is one of my all-time great life moments and life memories, and I hope you guys can understand why. So let's get to the dang song, right? It's a long song. I'm going to stop it right at the beginning and then sort of let it just go the rest of the way so you guys can really groove to it. Sorry the episode is running long, but I really had to share that story, and I was just waiting for a Supertramp song to plug in here so I could tell the story and play the song. And so it's a little long. I apologize, but here we go. Let's get to it. From 1979 and that great Breakfast in America album, it is the one and only Roger Hodgson on the composition, on the keyboards, on the guitar, and on the lead vocals with Supertramp, Child of Vision. And there's that iconic Supertramp sound already, right? And no one else has ever duplicated that sound of this band and these five guys and what they could do and what they could create. And they just lay down that groove that is instantly recognizable as a Supertramp groove. And I don't care if you call it progressive or art rock or prog rock or whatever. It's just Supertramp. That's all it is. Go ahead, John Helliwell, getting busy on that saxophone. Now, come on, folks. Supertramp, man, has anybody ever laid down a fat, thick, juicy, just that freaking groove, man. Bob Siebenberg on the drums, man. The guy's an absolute metronome, a machine on one hand, but he's so creative and so tasty on the other hand, and he's always slipping in some little licks on the drums and just driving that freaking train down the tracks. You get Dougie Thompson on bass, locked in. Him and Bob Siebenberg, locked, just locked. Can't get any tighter on the bass and the drums. John Helliwell just hanging back there, waiting for his moment on the saxophone. Rick Davies pounding the hell out of that piano, some of the funkiest and bluesiest piano that you will ever hear. And of course, that was one of his signature contributions to the Supertramp sound. And then on top of it all, you get the great Roger Hodgson with those vocals and his keyboard and the guitar and the whole package. Supertramp, man, if you never saw Supertramp's classic lineup in concert, I'm sorry, because you have no idea what you missed out. And that's why you should go buy that Live in Paris DVD or Blu-ray or whatever you want. And scope that out, because those guys were better live than 99.9% of the other artists are on record. They are that good and that tight back in the day. Supertramp. And as I said in the story, a decent bunch of guys, and doesn't get much sweeter than Roger Hodgson. What a gentleman, what a sweet soul. Eternally grateful to him for giving, 20-year-old Gordy Majak the thrill of a lifetime. Child of vision.